Super excited to share this interview with one of my favorite mentors, Todd Herman. We talked all about goal setting. We talked about mindset. He's someone that I've worked with one-on-one, and I've taken his 90-day year program. I think you're going to love what he's got to say, so tune in. Hey guys, it's Sylvie from SylvieMcCracken.com, and today I have a really special guest with me, Todd Herman. Todd is a high-performance coach and the creator of the 90-Day Year. Todd coaches athletes, the Spanish royal family, a whole bunch of cool people. He's a Canadian that says funny words sometimes, and a mentor of mine, and someone that I call a dear friend. Thank you so much, Todd, for being here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for bringing me on. I would say now that I'm a transplanted Canadian / New Yorker, because I've been in New York now for 10 years. And so I have this hard edge of New York with this
farm boy life.
Yeah. There's still Canadiana that will spill out of me, but
you're trying to do the thug life thing, but people are going to know, at least starting today, that you're actually a teddy bear, Todd. I'm sorry. The secret's out.
No, let's keep the hard veneer.
No, I don't trust it. And so the New Yorker / Canadian makes your accent a bit of a mess then, huh?
It does. Yeah, it does.
All right, cool. So Todd, let's talk about goals. So I have a few notes here because
you just had literally 80 people click the X button.
I know. But that's the thing is, like, I asked my people, I said, what do you want to talk about in regards to this stuff? And here's the thing, like, people are watching this now. Well, if they're watching it when we release it, it's November 2016. We're getting towards the end of the year, and it's when people start thinking about goals, and or hating the fact that they have to start thinking about goals. And so here's the thing, like, goal setting is messed up, right? So goal setting is like this bad boyfriend that has let you down before. And so people are a little bit apprehensive. Like you said, they're like, I don't really want to set goals. I've set goals before. I haven't hit them. It just leaves me feeling bad about myself. January 1st, I keep saying I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I write it down on a Post-it and then go to the gym for 2 weeks. And then by February, they're not going to the gym anymore. Right. So why is goal setting messed up? Why should we get back in there and set goals? Why,
because it's been taught as if it's like some sort of singular event that is going to, by its very nature, create some sort of achievement for people. Like, goals in and of themselves are a part of a larger ecosystem of achievement. And so most people, and what I mean by that is, like, a goal oftentimes has to come after some other activity that people do. And where people go wrong with setting goals is they start from a place of complete lack of awareness of where they truly are right now and what the right goals are for the place and I talk about the field of play constantly. Like, most people are on the sidelines of life, commentating or narrating what someone else is doing, as opposed to getting off their asses and going out and doing something. Like, there is no great, real big secret as to why people achieve. It comes clothed in work, and you need to fucking grab it and take it with you wherever you want. Like, I mean, anyone who wants to try and sell you on the easy life, is typically saying that while they're shoving their hand in your other pocket while you're not.
I think this is the part where you are a New Yorker, because you'll flat out say, like, this isn't easy. You don't just plug into the 90-day year framework, and then the minute you plug in, you can just put your feet up on your desk.
Yeah, but here's actually from a positioning standpoint, just so so people can see kind of behind the curtain of why you might be doing some of these things from a brand perspective. So for me, from a Todd Herman perspective, I know the types of people that I want to have around me and in my life. And I can go and make a lot of money in business by calling something easy or simple, even though they're not the same thing. But that is going to attract a certain type of individual into my life. And so I want to serve, be around, hang out with, go for dinner, have drinks with people who love challenging things, who like to do the difficult. And so that's why that stuff is in the languaging of how I say things, because it's fucking hard. it's hard to put yourself on paper and unpack who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what the threats are that are surrounding you, like to think that stuff through. It's hard work to do it.
Right.
But I think it's way harder to not do it later on, because the regret, the pain of whatever your circumstances are now that you're sitting inside of them weighs a hell of a lot more than the pound of flesh it costs you in order to just do this.
Well, and the negative self-talk, that goes on in terms of, you talk about mindset a lot. My peeps love hearing about mindset a lot, about the owl brain or wow brain, to use your terms, but that's what comes up a lot, right? Is I haven't hit the goal before. Why am I going to hit it again? Why am I going to set another goal?
And so you hit on the point of, like, probably the number one thing that I've heard, not in the exact words, but in so many words, as to why people avoid goals. No one has ever said in the history of time, when people hear about goals, no one ever says goals are bullshit. Everyone understands the importance of a goal. Yeah. But everyone's relationship, not everyone, a lot of people's relationship with it is it's a constant reminder of my failed attempts at doing something. Yeah. That's why. So I'm going to avoid setting the goal thing or doing the whole goal thing, Todd or Sylvie, whatever, because it's just a reminder of I might be setting myself up for more failure. Totally. And, while I could say something simple like, suck it up, buttercup, like, how do you like your current situation and circumstances right now? Yeah. There's still a lot more nuance to it than just, suck it up, right?
But that's important. And that's why, when I worked with you one-on-one, guys, this is Todd's coaching in a nutshell. It starts with the hard stuff, right? The stuff that you find a flashlight on, that it's like, you missed a spot here, you missed a spot here. And this is the hard stuff that we don't really want to look at, but the 90-day year starts with that unpacking the last 90 days or unpacking the last year or whatever. And where are the leaks? What is it that, what's working, what's not working? If we're not willing to look at that, then we don't have a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And getting to like the original start of the conversation around like, why doesn't goal setting work typically? It's been taught in a very archaic methodology that hasn't changed in, 150 years or something like that, taught by, successful white guys, and it's not lost on me that I'm a white guy. Sitting here talking about it. But it's, coming from a place of sometimes.
I think I lost your audio. Lost your audio. Let's see if you're back.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. So go back to the archaic. Yeah. So it's been taught in like some sort of archaic methodology from 150 years ago by, old white guys. Yeah. And it's not lost to me that I'm a white guy. But, but you're not old yet. So at least you've got that going.
Yeah, I got a little bit of time. But they're coming at it from a place of, hey, I'm successful. Right. And here is what I did to be successful. Well, life's a hell of a lot more nuanced than that. Not to bring in like, racism or anything like that, but hey, reality is life is easier for me. I'm a white man. It's just easier than it is for a white female. It's easier than it is for a black man. It's easier than, depending on where you're in the world. So, I never came at it from a place of, hey, here's what I did to be successful. I came at it from a place of, data, science, like neuroscience. I've got a massive sports background, having a sports science company for 19 years, working with pro Olympic athletes. I want to know from real boots on the field experience of multiple people, not just Todd. And so they just keep on regurgitating the same thing, and they'll use like, a newer, cooler term. So the 90-day year isn't the newer, cooler term of achieving goals. It's actually contains an entire system of achieving goals being a part of it. Right. And when you take a look at one of the hallmark kind of behaviors of people who seem to do really, really well is they are not afraid to take a look at their current results and then reflect back and say, okay, well, when I unpack this, success that we had or failure that we had, what are some of the key lessons? Like, what are some of the behaviors that point to it? Like, it's like in business, everyone's heard of the term KPI. So what's the key performance indicator? Most businesses only have a few that really truly do matter. The same thing goes in achieving anything. There's only really a few real key indicators that are going to determine the success of a goal, one of them being, do you know yourself? Most people think they know themselves, but they really, or they do know themselves, but despite the fact that they do know themselves, they don't create actions from the place of knowing themselves. They still ignore the fact, hey, this way that I keep on doing things never works, but I'm going to keep on doing it because so-and-so does it and they're successful. No, like, there's like, truth is like the center of town. There's a lot of streets and avenues and ways to get there. Yeah. And same thing with success, whatever that is, or same thing with like achieving a goal. There's many, many ways to get there. Yeah. I'm simply just trying to give people a system that will be repetitious and allow you to develop the habits, the behaviors, the routines, you know, the real pillars that hold up how you're going to be successful.
And I think that's important to note too, because I think some of this is like, it builds on itself, right? So it's almost like layers of an onion in a way. I mean, the first time you go through a 90-day year, you're going to perhaps, you know, get really good at one of the things Todd teaches is the Prada protocol, or, you know, and you'll apply it to one area of your life. You probably won't revolutionize your entire life in just that first 90-day year, but then in the second one, you're able to build on that and continue to iterate until you're seeing some, over the course of 4 90-day years, over the course of 12 months, you're going to see more progress than you would if you just on a Post-it note list 5 goals on January 1st.
Yeah. And even more than that, you're going to start becoming way more self-aware because you're doing it, like, because you're running this system that we do of like, you know, taking action, just reflecting back. And I'm not saying like you're sitting there and you're journaling and you're like, you know, theorizing, like, no, it's just like, there's a structured way of doing it that allows you to not just, and I'm not saying reflecting back on your losses, because where people probably would resonate with from a messaging standpoint more than anything is it's actually developing a mental process in your head where you can actually start to think in the context of being a supportive individual between the 6 inches in your ears, where you're not just sitting there beating the shit out of yourself, you know, 23 hours and 59 minutes of your day, where the 1 minute you're like, oh, you're kind of good at like this one. And then the rest of the time you're just beating the crap out of yourself. Like there's neuroscience built into developing the habit of thinking in what you had kind of referred to, what I call the wow mind, which is, you know, coming from a place of when you're confronted with an opportunity or a challenge or an obstacle or a goal that you want to, you know, seek or go after, you don't default into what I call the owl mind, which is automatically jumping way ahead and going, okay, well, this is what it might cost me, or this is how I might fail, and these are all the things that I don't have right now. And whereas a success-minded individual or a wow mind person goes to, like they automatically think about all the ways they're going to get challenged by it, how they're going to grow because of it, all the opportunities that might flow out of it, being excited about the opportunities that could flow from it that they can't even expect. And so the purpose of the goal isn't about even achieving the goal. Right. It's not. Like, I just know human beings. I've done this for so long and coached so many of them. It's not about even putting the gold medal around the neck at the Olympics when you're standing on the podium. It's about the person that you become by going after it, and all the forces that have to be acted upon you, and then how you develop yourself out of those things. That's, for me, every goal I've ever hit has been like, so like all the people who, and this isn't the first time people have been hearing it, but the people who would say, you know, have you ever like achieved a goal and then felt really empty inside? You know, that's because people really aren't paying attention to all the other things that were happening as you went after the goal. Like I literally don't care when I get to the end of the goal and I pick up the gold, you know, bag. It's because I'm excited about the entire process of just
transformation. That happens to you as the individual. And you know what, like, you know, as we're seeing some green in the back as opposed to sand, which is what you would have seen a few months ago. Like I'm sitting here thinking, I'm here in Ashland, Oregon. I did this move because you and a couple other friends, you know, Kevin Hutto and Dan Martell gave me the kick in the butt, which was basically reflecting on, you know what, Sylvie, this is owl brain stuff right here. You're making excuses for why, all the reasons why this isn't going to work. Just get on a plane. You know, and you know, which brings me to another thing, which is kind of this whole, you know, why a mentor is important, why mentorship is something that, you know, people need to consider especially when you're an entrepreneur. Why is a mentor so important? And can you tell us a little bit about the mentors that you've had in your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an easy one for me to talk about because it's been such a huge part of, my life and many of the successes I can kind of trace back to them. And I can say it there's some people who take on mentors who are like imaginary mentors who like they imagine in their head, think through what it would be like to be talking to, Benjamin Franklin or, Mother Teresa or whoever that would be for them. And so that's an imaginary mentor. And I mean, I've had those as well. Then there's the real ones where they're face to face with you. So, and then some of those are found accidentally. Jim Rohn, who was a mentor of mine for like 13 years, he was found accidentally.
I love this story.
I sat next to him. My uncle was getting an award in Canada for Real Estate Person of the Year, and I'm really close with him, so he invited me to come with him as his guest. And I was sitting at the head table with him. And I started chatting with this guy next to me. I was like 22 at the time, and started chatting with this guy next to me. And he was asking me all these questions because I had just won an award in the country. And so he's asking me like, what are you going to do with it? He's asking me all these questions that no one had ever asked me before. Just like, what's my vision? How do I want to like parlay this into something more and be more successful and da. And I just got done mentioning to him that I really wanted to get involved in like speaking more and consulting on hospitality, which is one of the awards, which is the award that I just won. But I didn't know like how to go about doing that. And he was, every time I tried to find out more about him, he would just like flip it right back on me. And finally I said, oh, are you winning an award tonight? What are you getting? He's like, no, I'm the keynote speaker. And it turned out to be Jim. And then right when he said that, they basically introduced him and he went up onto stand in front of the podium and he gave like, 54 minutes of the best thing I had ever heard in my entire life, and came and sat back down, and I was just awestruck. And I was like, well, how do I do that? Like, that's what I want to do. And then he kind of challenged me on, he's like, well, you say
key. This is the key part, I think.
Yeah. And then he challenged me and he was like, okay, so if you say that you want this, like you say, you want to go and do this thing, then go do these 3 things. And he gave me the 3 things. And this was on a Saturday night, and Monday at just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called him because he said, here's my number. Call me when you're done. And I was like, hey, Jim, I don't know if you remember me. I sat next to you of course, I sat next to him for 5 freaking hours at the thing, but playing the meek little kid, I guess. I was qualifying it, and I was like, hey, I did the 3 things. Now what do I do? And he called me back the next day and he's like, okay, because he was still traveling. He's like, all right, you're officially the only person who's ever done the 3 things and then called me. Other people had done them, but they took a really long time. And that was kind of his qualifying way of seeing how hungry someone was. You call him 3 weeks later, yeah, he might be, a little bit, he won't even be impressed. Honestly, he wouldn't be impressed, but at least you called him and you did the 3 things. So that led to him telling me to do something else. And then
I think that's
over time, it just led to us developing this total mentor-mentee role.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that's key to being a good mentee and be able to have a great mentor, and a mentor that is interested in your success, invested in your success is, at the very least, do what they say, call when, call when you're supposed to call. I mean, you weren't paying him a cent even.
No, right. It wasn't. But that also gets to one of the key things that a lot of people don't get. And this is especially people in the online space. Like, I've only just recently come into the online space. I've built all my businesses in very traditional forms before, kind of leveraging kind of online courses or programs or whatever. And what people don't get and understand is that the number of people who actually loop back around after they've consumed your program and told you about some major win that they've gotten because of your program is actually frighteningly small.
Right.
But the reason I'm saying it is those people who do, those of us who are putting stuff out there, we're going to latch onto you and try to like extrapolate from you. What is that thing? What were those wins? Because we need to feature more case study wins and, testimonials and all that kind of stuff. So it automatically elevates you into and ascending into occupying mind share into someone who possibly is in a position of influence.
Yeah.
And then when I find people who are actually going to go out and do the work and then loop back around and know how to communicate it back to us in a way that is valuable to not just me, but people who are struggling with something, and I can put out Sylvie in front of them and say, hey, this lady was struggling with the same thing. There's no excuses for you not to struggle with the same thing because she overcame it just by simply following this model. I will bend over backwards for those people. And I mean, I have, like, I mean, there's people in the online program that we have. I've lined them up with meetings with investment companies. I have an investment company. Like, I've lined them up with relationships to open up doors for them, because I want to see them be more successful. I'm not going to open up a door for you just by someone saying, "Oh, can you open up a door for me?"
Totally.
Quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Like,
totally and completely. But I think that's an important thing to note. And I love that story with Jim Rome, because I feel like, you know, a lot of the times we can make excuses like, oh, well, I can't afford this mentor because it's tens of thousands of dollars or whatever. And I mean, you know, your case is perfect for that, because you didn't even pay a cent. But it's more about, you know, it's more about doing the work. It's more about being, you know, you say you help ambitious people perform, and that couldn't be further from the truth, because you would be a terrible coach for a lazy person. Yeah. Oh. First of all, you know, you'd both last 5 minutes until, you know, but I mean, and that's the thing, is if you're an ambitious person, you know, a mentor like you is perfect for that. And a system like the 90-day year, which is going to require some work, which is not necessarily the easy button, is, you know, perfect for that type of person. Yeah. Yeah. So you talk about, I mean, and then so there's sort of that mentor came along in an accidental way, because I know what people do. They dismiss it and go, well, sorry, Todd, I'm at a big table where I get to meet influential people. Well, but to carry that forward, though, I reached out to Harvey Dorfman, who wrote Coaching the Mental Game, which is literally the Bible on mental toughness, known as Yoda in the Major League Baseball world. I mean, phenomenal guy. Had a background similar-ish to me in that he wasn't like a licensed psychologist, didn't go to psych, but he just had a complete instinct with helping people in the mental game, and had honed that over many, many years. And he also spoke very matter-of-factly. Like, we have a very similar delivery in some ways. And so I reached out to him, and, you know, he didn't know me from Blue. And I basically was like, "Hi, Mr. Dorfman, it's Todd Herman. I've just started out in the kind of peak performance and sports psych world. And I massively admire everything that you've done. And more than that, I love your approach, how matter-of-fact you are, and how much you completely dismiss most of the kind of bohunky crap that comes out of the psychology world. And I know that you run a private practice. And the problem with running a private practice is you probably have ambition to do a lot more stuff so you can serve the community more, like whether it's write more books or whatever the case is, but you get weighted down by just the shit that happens by running a business as well. So if you'd allow me, I would love to come and clean up some of that mess for you. Spend, you know, a month or more with you, just doing the little things that you would love to hand off, but you just need to do. Let me take care of it for you. I just want to be around you." And after then he responded back to that, because that was a message I left him. He responded back to that and said, "Okay, kid, like, what's your angle here?" And I was like, "Listen, like, I know I know that if I'm going to accelerate my path to being great, I need to be around great people. And I already have a really good mentor, but he's not in this world, which is the world that you and I live inside of. So, I know I'm going to learn through osmosis from you, and I'll get a lot from it. And I don't need you to talk to me. You can treat me like a fucking doormat. I don't care. I'm just going to learn something by being around you." And then he was like, "Okay, well, you're in Alberta, Canada. I'm in North Carolina. You're not going to come and live with me, you know?" Like, and I was like, no. I've got a family that lives down there, aunt and uncle that live in the area. I'm going to stay with them. It's totally cool with them. I've already okayed it with them. And so that totally took a bunch of pressure off of him, because think about it from his point of view. He's going to feel responsible for a young kid who's going to be in the area. Well, that's the thing, is you created value. You made it as easy as possible for him to say yes, right? Yeah. These are key things. These are key, you know. And I thought through like what his pain points are, not what Todd wanted. Yeah. I mean, that came into it, because he needs to know what I'm going to get out of it, but it wasn't the feature point. Right. No, the reality was I didn't have an aunt and uncle that lived in the area. I remember that. I stayed in a Motel 6 that was just over $29 a night. And I had no money at the time to do this. Like, I was broke as broke could be. But I went down there and I was down there for 33 days. Like day 5, because it was during the baseball offseason. I sat there while Roger Clemens, one of the Hall of Fame pitchers, came in, and I saw how Harvey handled a one-on-one coaching session with a Hall of Fame baseball player, and what that structure looked like, what he talked about, what
what Roger's real major concerns were. And most of it had nothing to do with baseball. It had everything to do with personal life and managing that stuff, that world around him.
And without that experience, how long would it have taken you to?
I wouldn't have, you know what, probably, I mean, based on like how rapidly I was moving, I could have done it in probably 8 years. I wouldn't have done it.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it in Harvey's format though. So there was A, the format that he used, B, just understanding the psychology of the real problems that are inside their heads. Because as soon as I went away from that 33 days in North Carolina, I knew exactly what I needed to be saying when I was talking to pro athletes. I knew exactly what I was saying. And so the conversions went from like 1 out of 6 to basically 100%.
Yeah.
They're basically, honestly, and I'm even, that sounds like an unrealistic. No, I literally converted every single pro athlete I ever spoke to into a client.
I believe it. I mean, I think that, you know, for me, a really key thing with mentors is speed. So, you know, if I can, you know, bring someone in to help me so that I don't have to scrape my knee and figure it out the hard way, and I can save 6 months or accelerate things by 9 months, that's invaluable, right? I mean, you know, between that and also what you learn from osmosis and all the accidental wins along the way that you could never even plan for.
And here's the other big thing. When you're aware, you also see that, holy shit, that person that I thought was so perfect has got more flaws than I do, and yet they've achieved something.
Right.
So it's unraveling this story that most people have in their head of, well, he was successful because he was successful because he had good parents. Yeah, he was successful or she was successful because she got a little bit of money investment. Hey, I can show you more stories of why people failed because they got money investment. I can show you more failures of people that had great parents and they weren't successful because they had great parents. You know, like 100%. There's a story to counteract every other story that someone else has in their head as to why they're not successful. You know, all of it is just a crutch to explain your shitty behaviors and many other things. Well, like I just won't allow the excuses to be there, because every single one of us can have a story as to why we're not doing it or why we are doing it. Totally. And my question, just like Dr. Phil's question would be to most people, is, well, how's that working for you? I think that's his greatest contribution from television, is that it's a great question. How's that working for you? Totally.
Because, and I think it starts with that personal responsibility, right? We are exactly responsible for everything we've done up until this time. We've been dealt certain cards. The important thing is how we play them. And we're responsible for the outcome of our life, whatever we do from here on out as well. So I literally, you know, this is part of my alter ego, which is one of the things Todds teaches. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a bracelet, and I literally have it engraved that says no more stories.
Yeah.
Because the stories are, you know, the stories are really powerful. I'm in the process now of starting to write a book on mindset for teen moms and pregnant teens, because I was one, and I feel like that's something I can possibly contribute to this world. And man, it's a tough one. All the stuff is coming back up, and, you know, trying to put myself in those shoes from a couple decades ago. And anyway, the stories are like, this is life. Like, this is the work here. This is the work in our personal lives, in our professional lives. Like, this is the important stuff. Yeah. So you talk about feedback loops a lot. And, you know, for someone that doesn't even know exactly what that means, I think we should talk about it a little bit. And also because I feel like what my audience is struggling with, the word that comes up a lot is overwhelm. Yeah. And so I feel like, you know, kind of diving a little bit deeper into, you know, the system that you teach, like how can we deal with overwhelm, and how do feedback loops, you know, tie into that? Because I think that's a key difference between, you know, the 90-day year and just, I don't know, like reading a book on goals.
Yeah. So, I mean, what most people want to be looking for is that me to try to give out some sort of process that's going to remove overwhelm as a complete possibility in their life. And when you take a look at any ecosystem that has a starting out point, overwhelm is a natural part of the beginning stage of anything. You know, you take what is the dropout rate between the first year of college and the second, third, and fourth year? So does the same dropout rate occur in the second year as it does in the third? No, it doesn't. The highest percentage is year one, because overwhelm is there. You it's a brand new world. It's a brand new phase. And so
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. You're pushing yourself. You're taking action towards things that sometimes might not bear fruit, or you don't have the skills yet. And so there is maybe there's an expectation of win before you've developed maybe all of the necessary skills in order to achieve the win that you really want. Like, there's a great kind of statement or quote from Ira Glass, who does the podcast called This American Life on, is it PBS network?
I don't know, but I'm going to write it down.
So it's This American Life by Ira Glass. Anyways, he talks about how, the struggle of an artist when you're starting out is your eye. You can look at a piece of art, or your ear can hear the sound of music, or you're a cook and you can appreciate, you love cooking, and you can really appreciate when a meal is done just like so good, so flawlessly. And so you've got a taste for and an appreciation for those things. And then, but when you start to take a look at when you're just starting out, what you can produce, and the gap between what you can produce right now and what your taste is are two very different things. And so it's discouraging because you're putting out maybe just shit in the beginning. It doesn't taste good. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't look good if it's art. And so that's a natural part of the process, because you need to keep working through it. But if you don't have a mindset or a frame or a perceptual view that that's the natural phase of it all, then you can get really discouraged at the place you are right now. But when you know that that's just the natural cycle of it all, it might encourage a person to stick through it longer than the person who doesn't have that understanding. So for me, feedback loops are really important, because if you aren't getting back to just to kind of close the loop on the how and the wow mindset, one of the core activities that differentiates what an owl brain person does and what a wow brain person does is, you and I could be starting at the base of a mountain, and we both take action over week 1, and we're both climbing up the mountain. It's a struggle for both of us. It's effort, all that kind of stuff. And we get to the end of week 1, and what you will do as an owl brainer is you will immediately pick your head up and look to the top of the mountain and see how much further you have to go.
And feel like it's impossible and I might as well quit.
You get overwhelmed by that gap. And then you look back over your shoulder and you say, oh, I haven't even gone that very far. Just a small little behavioral shift that wow brain people do. People who are like naturally success minded, who get jazzed by obstacles and challenges and going after the hard thing even. What they do is their first reaction isn't to look up. Their first reaction is to look over their shoulder and see how far they've come, the progress that they've made. Yeah. And then, because that simple action creates a cascading effect of, emotional hormones, which then triggers different thinking. You're like, oh, wow, look how far I've come. It starts to make you feel good. And then you pick your head up and you look up top. Both of us are standing in the exact same spot, having two very different internal experiences and stories that we're telling ourselves about where we are. And I go, oh, yeah, cool. Like if I just keep on doing what I'm doing, I'll get there. Like it's such a subtle thing. Feedback loops and the way that we've structured the 90-day year embraces that and helps to start hardwire and rewire a person's mind to naturally think that way. I don't tell you to think affirmationally. I don't tell you to sit there and do those things. We're too busy typically to be doing those things anyway. Right. We're overwhelmed with doing stuff. Why not just make it a part of the system itself so that it naturally rewires stuff? So feedback loops are important because it's action and reaction. Most people take actions, they get reacted by something, and they ignore the value of that information that's coming back at them. They don't pay attention to the reaction. Feedback loops pay attention to it.
So we don't unpack it. We typically basically just do something. We have no idea how well it worked. We either keep doing it or we quit and do something else. But
we ignore the data and what it's telling us, because I know that Sylvie does it and it's successful for Sylvie. So of course it's going to be successful for me. Well, no, there might be just a couple of little tweaks and changes and shifts that, make it work for Sylvie right now.
Right.
Or it could be her stage of business, or it could be just something different.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that it's not like if you're either owl brain or wow brain. And if you're owl brain, you might as well kill yourself.
No. We're all owl brain.
Yeah.
We're all.
Right.
I mean, I have in parts of our lives, everyone has a wow brain, like part of their life, a system they work inside of. Like some people might feel naturally successful when it comes to parenting, but when it comes to their business, or when it comes to their health or fitness or sports, or, church, or what, like relatives, there's just, we operate on different stages, and on each stage we have a different mindset. That's just natural.
Right.
So those feedback loops allow you to take a bunch of action and really learn from that action, so that it informs better decisions. And I mean, it's not part of the promise of the 90-day year, but ultimately, like from my point of view, as someone who's trying to coach and mentor or advise people to become better and more effective, is I know that when people can make better decisions, like game over. Like the quality of your life and the quality of your business just, can go up geometrically, exponentially.
Right. And
so this helps people make better decisions.
Right.
Becoming more and more self-aware, or the business is becoming more and more self-aware, because the 90-day year not just works for one individual. I mean, there's an ecosystem of how it works for teams as well that's built into it. So that feedback loop is so important. Like if you, it's why daytime television, daytime soap operas are so effective. They have stories going on, and then they start a story and they don't close it. Like you don't know what's happening with Laura.
Right. And so it never ends.
And then they shift to another. So that feedback, and because our brains are hardwired to want to finish things,
close it, yeah.
You'll stick around, and now I got to put in the VCR tape, and I got to record what happened on Days of Our Lives.
VCR, you're dating yourself.
Oh, I know.
But yeah,
it's just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it.
But yeah, so but the same thing goes with people's projects. Projects are like little stories that we start in our business.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're overwhelmed, if you feel like you could be a failure at what you're doing, I would just ask everybody, because everyone can answer this question right now. How many projects did you get started on in the last 3 months even, but you didn't close the loop on and finish?
Right.
All of those little things create insecurities inside the recesses of our mind, suck away a bit of our self-confidence and because I got no problem starting stuff.
Right.
The finishing of it.
Well, and most entrepreneurs are high quick starts, right?
Yeah.
So we're great at we have the entrepreneurial ADD where we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start a whatever. I'm going to start a new course, or I'm going to start, I don't know, 6 different projects, and without looking at the resources. Well, how big is our team? How much money can we invest in this? Can we accomplish this? And so then we've got a whole bunch of half-baked projects. Not one of them is complete. So you talk about this context switching a lot in the terms of in the context of 90-day year.
Yeah.
And so can you explain a little bit about context switching? Of course, you'd have to, we'd have to be here for 3 hours for you to really be able to teach it. But
yeah, no. And it doesn't even take me that long to teach it. It's just I like using visuals for it. But context switching is just simply the mind switching back and forth, trying to occupy 2 ideas at the same time. And that context switching actually creates a loss of real time, meaning that if I'm trying to work on a project on my computer and I'm also sort of mapping something out in a notebook over here, and they're 2 separate things, me going back from this project here to this one over here, the time it takes to reacquaint myself to where I was on this project that I was working on over here, it takes time. That time is completely lost. I don't get that time back. That's context switching. I'm going from this context to that context, and I'm trying to reacquaint myself to it. Yeah. And most people work that way. They will check their email, then they'll go to Facebook. And I mean, this isn't even them working. This is just them creating a cycle.
Oh, no. And then this thing will go off.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll check that, or they'll check Slack to see who's chatting with them inside of Slack, or who's dumped a project. And then they go to Asana or Trello or Teamwork or whatever the thing might be. Check some stats on whatever. And they're not moving the ball down the field, and they're just losing more and more time. And there's basically a mathematical kind of proof of how much time you lose in your day by simply adding on another project. And by the end of it, if you're working on 5 projects at the same time, or you're switching between 5 things at the exact same time, you lose, let's say in an 8-hour day, you lose a total of 6 total working hours.
That's crazy.
From your mind trying to process the reacquaintance.
That's crazy.
Of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the visual, like you said, the visuals are great. So we're going to put a link to the 3-part video series, which depending on when people are watching this is either open or it'll be a wait list. But the visual, when you show kind of how much time is lost in that, week of, from context switching, that was, at least for me, the huge eye opener of like, oh yeah, there's definitely, I thought I was a productive person before the 90-day year, but you see that visual and you're like, oh man, this is really bad. Like this needs to, you have to, at that point you make the decision of like, okay, this is a priority. I need to get this in check, because essentially I'm adding, I'm losing several months, a year
so people then wonder why they're feeling overwhelmed. It has nothing to do with you can't handle it. I'm saying you can handle it. You can handle it all.
Right.
You're overwhelmed by simply the model or this lack of system that you're working inside of.
Right.
I talk about it, whether it's in those videos or anywhere I go. I'm like, I have a personal frame that I look at the world through, which is most people in the personal development, self-help world, whatever, they love to talk about belief systems and beliefs. And they love to kind of hang most problems on the fact that you've got a belief issue. And I don't believe that at all. I don't think it is a belief thing. I think that because you can take a great person, put them inside of a bad model or system, and they won't get a good result. You can put an average person inside of a really good model or system, and they'll get a great result. Average person inside of a great company with like great culture and stuff, they'll get great results. Great person inside of a real crappy culture and crappy company, they won't produce their best results at all. So I say that people are typically working just a bad model. They have a bad system. They're not bad people.
Or no system.
Yeah, or they have no system. Yeah. Right. Well, they're not bad people. So most people point the finger out, I suck at this, I'm just not, or I'm not a systems person. And it's just not true. Like you're operating a system already. It's just a shitty system or a non-existent one.
Right. And so, it's just like, you've just got to retrain and rewire yourself. I mean, what's interesting about the 90-day year is it's not just for entrepreneurs. I mean, it's been really fascinating to watch it from on the inside of people coming in that are not even entrepreneurs and are applying it to life, or they're brick and mortar business owners. They don't have an online business at all, and they're applying it to that. And it's just, like the Prada protocol is something that you can apply in, your meal prep and how you get dressed every morning. So it's what I love about it is it's for performance in general. And it's, you've managed to adapt it to these 4 different stages of people that either want a business or, have been in business for 20 years or anywhere in between, or, like you had a whole group this last time, I think it was of moms, wasn't it? Of stay-at-home moms that are applying it to their lives.
Yeah, there's one of our partners who did some promoting. She has a really large stay-at-home mom community, and even though the program itself isn't built for them at all, because she's already been through it and it's made such a big impact on her family's life, even outside of her business, she just felt it was important for this community to see it as well. And and I mean, and those people were like, oh my God, it's, because the price of the program, because it's built for entrepreneurs, it's priced in a certain way. And because there's implementation and work with me and all this kind of stuff, I was like, no, please don't spend that money on just trying to solve this problem for your family, because the free content I gave away should give you enough information to just get some wins inside of yourself. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it started out, 90 years started out in the sports world 15 years ago. Back then I called it 90-day sprints because sprint is just an athletic term. Then I took it into corporate and it became 90-day year on the encouragement of an executive friend from Chevron. Because he's like, hey, we operate off of calendars. We don't really operate off of, sprints. And so that's why it became 90-day year back in 2004. And then I not pulled it out of corporate because it's still there, but then I created, because the entrepreneurial one was something where their needs are just different than corporate. So I shifted up a couple of the concepts to really mold itself to entrepreneurs and the challenges that they face because they're just slightly different. And anyways. Yeah. They're a good group of people. I mean, athletes and entrepreneurs are the same people. It's crazy how similar they are, how much risk that they're willing to take, and what they'll put themselves through in order to achieve whatever they're trying to go after. So, yeah, I mean, because they share that ambition, the ambition gene or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, it's the challenge of self. They both want to embrace, like, can I do this? I wonder. It's like that state. It's that one statement of like, I wonder if I can do it. Right. And the minute you do, you find a new challenge. Yeah. Because you just summited. You just reached the summit and you're like, okay, now I see things differently. Now what? And my ambitions might have changed. And now I'm going to go after that new thing or ramp up what I'm doing even to something more. So, anyway. Absolutely. Well, I'm just so glad that you took the time out of your day to share this with us, because I am so passionate about the 90-day year. I've applied it to my business. I've been through, is it 4 cycles? Well, I guess this is the fourth. We're in it. So this is the 4th 90-day year that I've been through. So, and it's had an incredible impact in both of my businesses. Of course, I also worked with you one-on-one, so that couldn't have hurt either. But so for everybody listening, I highly encourage you to check out Todd's free 3-part video series, which will be linked below this video. And depending on when you're watching this, if it's November 2016, it will be open for you to watch. And Todd, thanks so much for taking the time and for being here. Absolutely. Thanks. Love spending time with you. Bye, Todd. Bye, Sel. I hope you loved that interview with Todd. I think he is one of the most inspirational people that I've ever worked with. And, meeting Todd has led to so many amazing things. The last 12 months in my business and life have been absolutely life-changing. Some of that has been because of the strategies that he's taught me. Some of it has been because of some of the kicks in the butt that he's given me. Some of it has been because of his 90-day year framework. And some of it has been just because of, a couple of introductions that he's made, which has led to an incredible community that I'm now surrounded with. So I highly recommend you check out his work, whether you follow him on his podcast or whether you watch his free 3-part video series, which is linked below, which may or may not be available depending on when you're watching this. And, I think that having great mentors in our life is one of the ways that we can shorten our learning curves and get to those wins a little bit quicker. So if you have the opportunity to work with him, highly recommend. Talk to you soon.